In this photo, you can see a person tied down on a wooden bench, while someone else stands ready to hit them with a cane. Punishments like this were done in public, so everyone could see what would happen if they broke the rules. It was meant to scare people into obeying the law and keeping society under tight control. Just imagine the fear in the crowd, watching and wondering if they'd be next. Look at this shocking image where people are tied up on wooden crosses, while someone stands guard nearby. Such harsh punishments were used to make examples out of people who committed serious crimes. It was a brutal way for authorities to show their power and keep others in line. People who witnessed this would remember the warning for the rest of their lives. In this photo, several people are locked into wooden stocks, raised on a platform for everyone to see. This punishment wasn't just painful, it was meant to humiliate and shame them in front of the whole community. It often happened for minor crimes, like stealing or breaking small laws. People would point, stare, and sometimes even throw things at those trapped inside. Here's a powerful image showing someone getting beaten with a stick by an officer while a crowd looks on. Public beatings were meant to show how quickly the authorities would punish anyone who broke the rules. It wasn't just about pain, it was a message to everyone else to stay in line. People watching might feel fear, anger, or even relief that it wasn't them. Look at this scene inside a classroom where a teacher is physically punishing a student. Back then, such harsh discipline was seen as normal in many schools. Teachers believed hitting students kept them obedient and focused on their studies. Today, we look back and see how cruel and damaging these punishments really were. This photo is chilling. A man is strapped tightly into a chair, surrounded by several people watching him. Such extreme restraints were part of punishing the worst crimes, often leading to execution. It was society's way of showing zero tolerance for certain offenses. People witnessing this would feel both horror and a strong reminder to obey the law. Here, people gather around a massive cannon, creating quite a spectacle. In those days, displaying military weapons in public wasn't just for show, it was a warning. It reminded everyone of the government's power and strength. Anyone thinking of rebelling would look at this cannon and think twice. In this photo, people are tied up with ropes while others stand around watching. This was another way to control and punish those accused of wrongdoing. Being restrained publicly sent a message to everyone that disobedience wouldn't be tolerated. It must have been terrifying, knowing the entire community was witnessing your punishment. In this photo, we see a woman being roughly handled by two men, while others stand by and watch. This happened during wartime, when people were often accused of helping the enemy or breaking strict wartime rules. Public shaming like this was used to scare others into loyalty and obedience. The fear and chaos of war made punishments even more intense and cruel. Look at this intense wartime scene, where a woman is being dragged by several people, one even pulling her hair. During wars, public punishments were common for those accused of betrayal or helping the enemy. Such harsh treatment was meant to send a clear warning to the whole community. People watching this would feel both fear and pressure to follow the authorities without question. In this photo, two people look deeply distressed, their faces full of fear and tension. Scenes like this remind us of times when harsh interrogations were used to force people to confess or reveal secrets. These methods aim to break a person's spirit and bend them to the will of those in power. It's chilling to imagine how terrified and helpless they must have felt in that moment. Look at this striking image of someone's feet tied up and raised by a pole, while an adult stands with a stick. Even children are gathered around, watching this harsh punishment unfold. Such painful methods were used to keep strict discipline, especially in schools or communities. It was meant to scare everyone into obeying rules, but it left lasting fear and trauma behind. In this photo, we see someone being struck with a long pole, while a crowd stands around watching. Public beatings like this were used to enforce strict laws and moral codes. The goal was to show everyone what happened to those who stepped out of line. The pain wasn't just physical, it was also the shame of being punished in front of everyone. These brutal echoes of the past are just the beginning. Like, subscribe, and stay with us as we reveal more hidden horrors from history's shadows. Look closely at this haunting image, where people are helping someone lying on the ground. Strange equipment nearby hints at forced feeding or purging, used to control or punish people. These invasive methods were meant to break a person's will or force out confessions. It's a harsh reminder of how far authorities would go to maintain power and control. This photo shows a person hanging suspended in the air, being whipped as people watch. Punishments like this were used to keep strict control, especially where forced labor and dominance were involved. It was meant to crush any thoughts of resistance or rebellion. The sight alone must have terrified those who witnessed it, ensuring they stayed obedient. Look at this eerie image of someone strapped into a wooden frame while another person turns a device. This was a torture tool designed to painfully stretch a person's body. Such cruel devices were used to force confessions or punish those seen as defiant. It shows just how brutal and relentless interrogations could be in the past. In this photo, a person is wrapped up tight, surrounded by tubes and barrels. It looks like they're being forced to undergo some intense treatment, possibly involving forced feeding or purging. This was a method used to break a person's resistance or extract information. The fear and discomfort must have been unimaginable for anyone trapped like this. Look at this somber image of someone bound and sitting in front of a wooden wall that almost looks like a target. Scenes like this often signaled the moments before a severe punishment, even execution. Such punishments were society's ultimate response to serious crimes or rebellion. Just imagining the fear in that person's mind sends chills down the spine. In this photo, a person wears heavy devices around their neck and legs, chained together tightly. Such restraints were used to control prisoners and keep them from escaping. The constant weight and discomfort were part of the punishment itself. Living day after day in chains was a harsh reminder of the strict and unforgiving rules of the past. Look at this fascinating photo showing several people standing in separate booths, endlessly walking. This strange machine is called a treadmill, but not like the ones we use today for exercise. Back then, it was a punishment, forcing prisoners to walk for hours as hard labor. It was exhausting, repetitive, and meant to crush any spirit of defiance or disobedience. In this photo, we see a person trapped under a heavy stream of water pouring down from above. Another person stands nearby, watching and controlling the harsh treatment. This cruel method, called the shower bath, wasn't meant to clean. It was used to torture and break a prisoner's spirit. The cold water pounding down non-stop caused fear, pain, and utter confusion for anyone forced to endure it. Look at this startling image of someone wearing a strange metal cage locked around their head. This device was known as the crown or the scold's bridle, designed to silence people accused of gossiping or arguing too much. It wasn't just uncomfortable, it was meant to publicly humiliate the wearer and warn others to keep quiet. Imagine the shame of standing in the streets, unable to speak, while everyone stared and whispered. Here's another powerful image of a woman wearing a metal contraption covering her head and mouth. This cruel device was called the scold's bridle, used to punish women labeled as too talkative or troublesome. It was a harsh way to silence and shame them, forcing them to stay quiet under the threat of pain. It shows how society tried to control women's voices and keep them in strict roles. Look at this haunting photo of someone strapped into a large wooden chair with belts binding their arms and head. This was the tranquilizing chair, used in old psychiatric hospitals to keep patients still. Doctors believed it would calm people down, but it often caused fear, pain, and helplessness. Just imagining sitting there, unable to move for hours, feels deeply unsettling. In this chilling image, we see a terrifying machine known as the Iron Maiden. It's a tall metal cabinet lined with sharp spikes on the inside, ready to close around anyone forced inside. This torture device was designed to cause unimaginable pain, sometimes leading to death. It was a brutal symbol of punishment and power, meant to terrify anyone thinking of defying the rules. The past leaves dark marks we can't ignore. Thanks for watching, and stay curious, because history's shadows always have more to reveal.